brand new week on this week of our July 4th celebration of the 250th of the United States. And on this Monday, later on after the 10 o'clock news, Representative Amos O'Neill comes to callin'. At 11 o'clock, we'll learn more about New Finish from Jen and Kevin from New Finish. But for this hour, we're going to talk a little history and where that history is saved and presented. Because we have a couple of folks with us this morning. First of all, we have the president of the Bay County Historical Society, and he is Bob Pavlock. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Art.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And the executive director of the Historical Museum of Bay County, Kyle Proctor, with us this morning. Kyle, good morning.
Good to be with you, Art. Thank you.
Let's talk first of all about the Historical Society, because it's been around for a long time, hasn't it, Bob?
It sure has. We go back to early 1900s and have been around in various incarnations over the years to our present location on next to City Hall in Bay City.
Explain the relationship of the Historical Society to the Historical Museum.
Well, the Historical Society, I guess, oversees the museum. It's one of our main functions. It's what we do. We're the caretakers of the museum, as it were. And so our mission is to preserve Bay County history.
And the museum is the perfect place to do that.
It sure is.
Among others, because you can't hold everything in that museum.
That's true.
No, but we try, Art.
So, Kyle, talk about the museum. I can remember, this probably goes back, 80s or 90s when it was rehabbed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been rehabbed many times, including into the early 2000s. But yes,
well, was it again?
Some of the early incarnations of refurbishment would have happened back in that era for sure.
Yep, I remember that very well.
Art, I've been in the job for almost 30 days now. You're going to ask me questions I won't entirely know
30
answers.
days?
Yeah, I'm a baby in the museum business.
Wow, boy, you got a lot of history.
The only history is on my face, not in my role.
Well, what got you into the museum game?
Well, a lifelong passion for history. I was a history minor in college. I have been, just a personal consumer of history all my life. I had a almost 30-year career in the corporate world in executive communications, and fell in love with an opportunity to come and serve the mission of the society and the museum, to bring together the two passions that I have, history and also marketing and public relations, bring the two together and really create an inviting opportunity for folks
Where
in and
are you
outside
from
the county. Originally from eastern Iowa, but
Oh,
I've
are
been
you?
in the area since 2014. I was working with Dow. I was working for Dow's ag business down in Indianapolis, and in 2014, I made the move up here to Midland.
And your minor in history serves you well now.
It does serve me well, and I'll
Probably
tell you.
wondered all your life, what am I going to do with it?
That's exactly right, which is why it wasn't a major in history. And I stumbled into that minor in history quite by accident. I fell in love with a class that was an elective and the teacher that taught it, and continued to pursue more and more. And finally one day he pulled me aside after class and he said, "What are you up to?" And I said, "What do you mean, what am I up to?" And he goes, "How many credits are you up to?" Well, I didn't know, but he knew. And he said, "You're stumbling into a minor in history." I said, "Well, I do so willingly," and the rest was history, as they say. And I went ahead and pursued that minor. I fell in love with it, but I asked him at the time, I said, "What in the world would I do with a history major?" And he said, "Well, the majority of people teach. You've got folks that then go into political science and law school, or they go into government or what have you, and none of those things particularly appealed to me. But 30 years later, I found a place for it, and I'm happy."
Well, that's a good place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not wanted to see politics. That's
No. We sit next door to City Hall, and that's as close to politics as I need to be.
That's true. That's true. So let's talk about the Historical Society, Bob. And it's been around, 100 years or more. What does it do with everything it collects, aside from what's displayed in the museum? What do you do with it all?
Well, we have permanent exhibits where we detail Bay County history. And as Kyle mentioned earlier, we're a repository for Bay County history. And it's surprising how many chairs We, for example, that's our inside joke. We have hundreds of chairs, many of which we know their origins of, but some which I'm sure somebody just donated them at some time.
You're talking about physical chairs.
Physical chairs, physical wooden chairs.
Welcome to the basement of the museum. We have a chair room down there that nobody sees but us.
That's it. And maybe somebody important sat on one of those chairs at one time. And we do have, we can verify the provenance of many of them. But honestly, over the years, a lot of that's been lost. So,
any of them made in Bay City? I mean, was there an attachment anywhere?
We do have some of the Habitat furniture, which was made in Bay City, but I would say that doesn't take up the bulk of the chair collection, for example. We have dresses from the Victorian era all up through the 20s and 30s. We have World War I, World War II artifacts that have ties to Bay City. It's amazing what we have. It's amazing what the public doesn't see in the basement. As Kyle mentioned, it's like the movie Night at the Museum. Going into the basement, it's like, wow. And for me, a geek of history, it's like Xanadu. Like, I'm surrounded by old things.
How much of what you hold either has reference to the lumbering era or nautical themed?
I would say probably, and without guessing numbers, we have more that represents the nautical thing than the lumbering era. But we do have the lumber era is well represented in our exhibits. But I would say in artifacts more so on the marine history of Bay City.
And how much do you have on the body history of Bay City? Of which there was quite a bit.
I can't honestly answer that one. I don't know.
Probably some of that didn't survive, but we do have a section in our Trails Through Time exhibit on the main floor of the museum that's focused on the Hell's Half Mile and some of the interesting.
Let's say a reputation.
Yes, yeah, has a reputation for an interesting past.
Very interesting past, indeed.
Indeed.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with our guests from the Bay County Historical Society and the Historical Museum of Bay County. More ahead.
Big news in the race.
All right, we're back with you. In studio with me this morning, Bob Pavlock. He is the president of the Bay County Historical Society. And also with us, the executive director of the Historical Museum of Bay County, Kyle Proctor, who has at least a 30-day reference to everything in the museum, because that's how long he's been installed.
That's very correct. But I tell you what, it's been a wonderful 30 days.
So what have you discovered? You get there, Kyle, and you've been in the museum before, I assume.
I have, yeah.
So,
I was in the museum probably about 10 or 12 years ago with my very young children who are now driving and getting ready for college and all of those things.
it's a whole other historical chapter.
Exactly.
So what did you discover when you got there? Was it what you expected?
It's absolutely what I expected. It's a celebration of Bay County history, which there's a lot to celebrate and to honor. The staff is tremendous. Our volunteer base is just a wonderful group of people who come and give of their time. We have a number of donors and other individuals, families, and corporations in the community that very kindly give to serve our mission. And as we were speaking just before the break, if you could only go down to the basement of the museum and see what we have but can't currently show, you'd know that there's an endless opportunity to really bring forward some tremendously interesting, exciting, and powerful artifacts.
So as you vision the future, how often are you going to change displays?
Well, that's a very good question. I think for sure we have a temporary exhibit on the main floor that we will endeavor to turn over twice a year. That's our current plan. The next turnover should happen in and around the middle of November of this year. Themed. Our current theme that we're dealing with or sort of brainstorming at the moment is 80s and 80s, 1880s and 1980s. And we have a fair amount of artifacts from both, and it'll be exciting to see them from both on
1880s,
display.
back to the body.
Indeed, yes, yeah. But I'll tell you how I ended my week last week, my third or fourth week in role. A young woman had reached out to us through our Facebook channel probably 2 or 3 weeks prior and said, I ran into an artifact in a antique store in Saginaw, and I think it's something the museum might be interested in. It's a pair of wooden wheel roller skates and a carrying case from the Winona Beach Amusement Park.
Oh, wow.
And it's been a minute. Let me tell you this, I'm not old enough to know the Winona Beach Amusement Park. The young woman that donated them is certainly not. But she said, if you're interested in them, I'm happy to go back to the antique store, purchase those, and then donate them directly to the museum. And that speaks, I think, to a love for history, but also a real care in the community for the mission that we serve. And so I got a chance to meet with her on Friday and take possession of the item. And in that case, it was one of those wonderful examples where, as we always endeavor to, not only did we take possession of the artifact, but we were able to immediately display it. So it's on display now in the museum, and it's something that people can come and see. I will tell you, these roller skates are heavy. I wouldn't have wanted to wear them on my feet. About an hour of roller skating, and you would have wanted to take a bit of a nap.
I have to ask, and Bob, you can address this. I have this fear. Newspapers are, for all practical purposes, not much anymore. There are some exceptions, but around here, pretty much, except Midland, there's not much. If I wanted to know what happened in Bay City or Saginaw in 1932, this day, I could go into the library, look at the microfiche, examine the newspapers, and I will have a history of what happened in these cities. Who's keeping that history today?
The library does a fantastic job, and we kind of mirror the library with our, I'll call it our research personnel, and they can go back. We have some things that the library that the library doesn't have, and the library has some things that we don't.
Yeah,
have.
but understand my question. 50 years from now, if somebody wants to know what happened today, who's recording that? Who's keeping that history?
Today's history? Unfortunately, I think it's all in the digital era. It's the internet, and I truly mean, unfortunately,
I agree.
I retired as a teacher from Bay City Schools, elementary and then middle school, and since history was my passion, I made sure that my students. I tried to foster an interest in local history, and of all the students. Over the years, I will still have one or two or three come up to me years later and thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. It has gotten me interested in and kept me interested in history. But I think it falls on passionate teachers and hopefully, in my dream world, passionate parents that would kind of push that love of history. That's how I became interested through my father, who was just a font of really local history. The township I grew up in, he was involved in politics there, and so he could tell me about people in the last 50 years and personalities and what was on this piece of land. I hope we don't lose that. I fear that that's one of our biggest challenges.
That's my fear, and that would be a heck of a loss.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. The news, as you know, has migrated largely online, and the question is, how do you archive that which sort of exists in thin air? And what we consume in online media is meant to be transactional. It's meant to be sort of read and moved on from. And so the question is, what legacy does it leave that is searchable then into perpetuity? I don't know the answer to that question either, but it's
well,
fascinating
and that's
one.
the problem. I don't know the answer either.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that does, because what we relied on isn't there anymore.
Right.
That's true.
One of the key tasks that we have in the museum is the work of collections, and that's not specific to our museum; it's to every museum. And one of the critical tasks of that key task is the digitization of the materials that we receive. And so it's the scanning of artifacts, the photography of artifacts. It's that giving it a digital footprint, both so that folks can come in and see the piece in its three-dimensional form, but also view it online as well from the comfort of their own home. We are a free resource to Bay County residents, and we're just as interested in you experiencing our history from your sofa as we are from the museum itself.
I'm sure you will admit there's nothing like seeing the real thing.
No, there isn't. And let me tell you, I have the beautiful luxury of being the first one in the museum every morning, and there's a very special power that comes to walking into a dark museum and walking through the exhibits, the only person there, flipping the lights on, and really, being the first one to experience it every morning. It gives me goosebumps every day.
I want to talk a minute. You mentioned them earlier, but volunteers. What's the role of volunteers in the museum?
Well, our volunteers are indispensable. The core task that they serve is that they are the first line of interaction with our guests. So they sit at the front desk and run our museum store. They obviously handle admissions, but they also kind of preview what our guests are about to see, answer any questions in advance they might have, and go from there. But then, as you can imagine, we have a number of events and activities and the curation and creation of exhibits, and we have volunteers with a lot of different talents, from woodworking to painting to light construction and what have you, and they're all very happy to give of their time and talents.
So they get involved in the presentations.
Very much so, and we're grateful for it.
So, Bob, let me ask you the big question. How is all this funded?
Oh, well, we're, I want to say, generously funded for via millage from Bay County residents, yes. Our current millage expires in 2033, and I believe the last one was a 20-year millage, so we obviously, in the very near future, will become active in promoting renewing of that millage. We also rely on donations from the community. We do charge admission, but that's a very small amount. The bulk of our monies comes from the millage.
Yeah, and speaking of the millage, you just had our friends from the Castle Museum in Saginaw on the air, a week or two ago, and they're in the middle of a millage renewal now.
Yeah, and it's renewal with no increase.
That's right, But can't say it loudly enough, that renewal matters, right?
Oh,
it matters to the future of museums like theirs and like ours, and so if you're listening today and you live in Saginaw County, that's an important piece.
Yeah, because that renewal actually funds 4 or 5 museums.
Absolutely. Wonderful museums.
Yeah, and they've been good fiduciaries.
Right.
It's nice to have a millage renew that doesn't cost you any more.
Right.
Status quo, so to speak. I would take a break, come back, talk more with our guests from the Bay County Historical Society and the Historical Museum of Bay County. We'll talk about some of the exhibits that are there now. Hi, we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show for this Monday, the 29th of June. And in studio with me this morning, the president of the Bay County Historical Society. He is Bob Pavlock. And the executive director of the Historical Museum of Bay County. He is Kyle Proctor. So, Kyle, let's do a little stroll through the museum, if you will. What's going on these days?
Yeah, happy to take you through it. So as you come into the museum, on the main floor is our Trails Through Time exhibit, and so that takes you everywhere from the early indigenous populations of the area, well before we were Bay City or even Bay County. And as you move your way through, you enter the lumbering era into the 1950s and 60s. Some of the special moments that happened in time. One of the notable exhibits on our main floor that never ceases to sort of take people's breath away is a World War I era ambulance on the floor, and that has special significance for a number of reasons, one of which is that we're physically based in an old National Guard armory building, and the ambulance companies were hosted there, and so it is an homage in a way, not only to Bay County history, but to the building itself.
Yeah.
And we finish with the Bay County Sports Hall of Fame, which is tremendous, and it's and that's.
Do you have that housed
there?
We
do. We have it there.
Saginaw has the Saginaw Hall
exactly,
of Fame. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's updated through to present day, and so we have a good number of guests that come through looking for names either of themselves or of schoolmates that they would have gone to. Upstairs is our maritime permanent exhibit, and so that's everything to do with ships and shipbuilding, of which Bay County, of course, has a tremendous legacy.
How often is that refreshed?
Well, you're asking the guy with 30 days in the question.
It's like a permanent.
It is a permanent exhibit, and we will bring items up from the archives to refresh some of the displays. But more or less, it is, I would say, probably untouched for the past, call it 20 years or more, would be my guess.
Yes. We just, and part of our discussion is looking for ways to get people who have never been to the museum before. Or maybe we need to update the exhibits on a more frequent basis, which perhaps we do. But my fallback is, but there are so many people in the area that haven't been here for the first time. So it's not like we need to rush into this. Let's get those people. I have family members that have never been to the museum. And it makes me sad, but I prod them every time I see them. But, they don't have the same passion for history. I take that back. My family actually does, but most people don't. And most people that see it for the first time, Kyle told me a story about when your son went through, who had come through as a youngster.
Yeah.
You share the reaction.
Sure. So I have an 18-year-old son, and, Art, if you've had an 18-year-old child in your life, you know that they're generally not pretty impressed with much of anything at that age, right? They know more than anyone else, and it's hard to get much interest out of them. But I brought him into the museum in part because I needed his back strength for moving some furniture around in my office, and I pay his health insurance, and so I knew I was covered there if there was an issue. But I took him to the museum quickly, and the one exhibit that I didn't mention yet, but it is our newest permanent exhibit on the second floor, is the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. And it really needs to be experienced to appreciate. It is a special exhibit. It draws a lot of interest from the community and around the state because it does speak to the history of rock and roll music in Bay County, but then to Michigan, the larger state of Michigan, Motown and what have you. Anyway, he went upstairs and he came back down and he was blown away by the exhibit and made it clear that he's coming back as soon as possible to spend some more time up there. And you could spend quite a long time up there and still not see anything. That's true of anything in the exhibit, but that's a uniquely special exhibit that we're proud to call home.
Before I forget to ask, what kind of hours do you keep at the museum?
We are open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Sunday and Monday closed? Sunday
and Monday closed. You can come on Monday, but I'm the only one there. You're going to have to knock pretty hard to get my attention, but I'm there.
And how long should somebody plan? And I ask this of all museums because they're all different, but how long should somebody plan on spending in the museum?
Well, we'd love it if you'd spend the whole day there, right? And I think you could, and still have things that were left unexperienced. But it's not uncommon for folks to come in off the street who spend maybe 20 or 25 minutes. I would say on average, we tend to see families and groups come through and spend a couple of hours and go, with a promise to return because there are things they just haven't had a chance to get to. We do our best to create both long-form and bite-sized moments for folks to be able to experience.
Do you do any community outreach in the form of classes or lectures?
We do. Our second Saturday series is something where we bring folks in who are experts on certain topics, anything from shipwrecks to rock and roll history and everything in between, and that is very popular. We do an archive deep dive collection as well, where we bring something up from the archives that hasn't been displayed and kind of allow our guests to soak in that singular item and the history that surrounds it. School groups that come into us, and other tours and what have you, they're all part of the mix. And it's critical, obviously, because that's what continues to bring people back on an ongoing basis.
And what's the admission?
It is free for Bay County residents. If you're a non-resident of Bay County, it's $2 for individuals, $5 for families.
All right, take one more break and come back with our guests. Let me talk about something that is not highlighted in the Historical Museum. Our potholes, and we have lots of them. And they're historic because they've been around for a long time. And every time you hit one, you could be damaging your car's alignment. Our friends at Quick Lane Freeland realize that and are offering you a complimentary alignment check. All you have to do is drive in. They'll be happy to check your car's alignment and tell you what they find. And if you wonder how important alignment is, Here's John from Quick Lane Freeland to talk about it.
If your vehicle's wheels are aligned correctly, it will not pull to the left or to the right when driving. It also prevents improper tread wear, so your tires last longer. A wheel alignment should be checked often because normal steering wear and tear can cause your alignment to go out in addition to potholes and railroad crossings. A correct alignment also reduces rolling resistance on your tires for better fuel mileage.
And, of course, better safety all the way around. Stop in today. If you do need tires, by the way, remember that Quick Lane Freeland sells all their tires at just $5 over cost. Quick Lane Freeland, it's part of the McDonald Ford complex in Freeland. And those two names, McDonald Ford and Quick Lane Freeland, stand ready to help you with all your automotive needs in 2026.
Rocket Grab Plus.
We're back with you. We're talking to Kyle Proctor. He's the executive director of the Historical Museum of Bay County. And Bob Pavlak, he is the Bay County Historical Society president. So Kyle, July 4th coming up, big fireworks show, festival all weekend. Are you open for the festival?
We actually are closed July 3rd and 4th. You can imagine that downtown Bay City is a challenging place to move around.
I asked.
Yeah, so we're going to let folks enjoy the festivities and hopefully do so safely because it's going to be a hot one this week.
Yeah.
But no, unfortunately, no, not open during the 4th of July.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
You said something about talking about another article or item that you have arrived.
Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier that I ended my week with those really interesting wooden wheel roller skates. I started the week in a similar situation. A gentleman came in off the street, unprompted, with a bag of items, and he said, "I'm here to donate my hero." And my curiosity was piqued, and I asked him to explain more. We went into my office. He started pulling things out of the bag. It was an American flag, service records, medals, and military. And the piece de resistance was a Purple Heart, which I'd never held in my hands before. And let me tell you, it's a momentous occasion, to hold something of that significance in your hand. This was honoring Corporal Muriel H. Richards. He died on May 6th, 1945, in the Pacific Theater. And we have his Purple Heart and all of the records that go with it. The documentation signed by Harry S. Truman himself, also as a lover of history. So fascinating to hold that document in my hand. And I was thinking about it over the weekend, and so I started doing some additional research just for the fun of it. Corporal Richards dies on May 6th of 1945. Truman had only just taken office 1 month earlier. So think about the magnitude of the President of the United States coming in for an FDR who was beloved and who had passed away in office. And inside those first few weeks in office, he's signing these, real documents of significance and awarding posthumous awards to soldiers that were serving him as Commander-in-Chief.
It has special meaning to me because Harry Truman was my grandfather's best friend.
My goodness, is that right?
And we have a long family history with Truman.
I have a son named Truman, by the way.
Do you really?
Yes, my 18-year-old son is named Truman.
I've got his memoirs at home signed to me and all that stuff.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, 6, 7 years old, from New York City, my mother was from Kansas City, so we would travel back and forth twice a year.
Right.
And her cousin lived right across the street from the Truman's White House.
Is that right?
I would go walking with the President of the United States.
Oh,
I didn't know who he was, but
I had an opportunity in college to meet David McCullough, who'd written, the epic Truman biography, which was a real pleasure. Also interesting, though, to learn that, Corporal Richards, he passed on May 6th. He missed the end of the war in the European theater by 2 days, right? So he died not knowing that the war was at its imminent end. Obviously, he passed in the Pacific, and that part of battle didn't end until September. But it's interesting to think about the many layers of history and stories that exist here, right? Yeah.
And be careful, or the folks in Frankenmuth are going to come and call. That museum is special.
Yeah.
It really is. But those kinds of things, if you have any love of history at all, those kinds of things, they're like magnets.
No, exactly. And you asked the question earlier, what do you do with the items that you receive? The immediate task that I have set to myself is, where can I show this, right? Because the last thing we want to do is hide it away. We do have an archive full of hundreds of thousands of items, all of which we would love to be able to show at all times around the world or around the year. This is something that I take as a personal mission to bring up and in full view for our guests.
I would probably, if I were you, and I'm not, but if I were you, I'd probably look for a way to build a display on Bay County residents who served in World War II and maybe even lost lives,
And we have a whole military section in the first floor display, everywhere from Civil War through
right.
World War I and World War II. And so I think there is the perfect home for it. And now it's a matter of getting Corporal Richards his lasting legacy there at the
Does he
museum.
have family around it? Do you know?
It was his nephew who brought the item into me. Yeah.
So you wouldn't have any problem getting approval from them.
No. And, one of the things that happens when somebody turns items over to the museum, they sign a contract that effectively says this is now museum property, not personal property. And that's important for any number of reasons. But his first question to me was, Kyle, can you promise to display this in the museum? And that's a hard promise to make for every item that we receive, because like every museum, we're space limited. This one, we'll find a good space for it.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
That would be a
So it's in Corporal Richards is in my office with me now, and it gives me goosebumps every time I walk past it.
Yeah. The Historical Society, is it a membership-driven society?
It is, and we welcome anyone from the community or not the community that has a passion for history to become members.
That's right. It's a zero admission fee for Bay County residents, but they can elect to become paid members of the museum, and then there are additional benefits that come to them in the form of access to content that only members receive, discounts in the museum store, and a host of other things.
And is there, by any chance, a website?
There is absolutely a website, bchsmuseum.org, and we're also active on Facebook and Instagram.
BCHS Museum.
Bay County Historical Society Museum.org, bchsmuseum.org.
And again, your hours?
10 to 4. Saturday to, what am I doing here?
Tuesday through Saturday.
Tuesday through Saturday. What day is it
heard
today, Art? What day is it?
Monday.
Okay, very good. All right, let's start there.
Yeah, you're off today.
No, I'm closed today.
And do you have any events coming up in the near future?
The biggest one that we're preparing for at the moment is the launch of the new temporary exhibit that'll happen in November. I also have a meeting tomorrow with the American Chemical Association that's hosting the temporary exhibit that we have today. She has a number of school tours and other events planned this summer through the fall, and so I'll meet her for the first time in my new capacity, and we'll learn more about what's to come there.
And if groups want to come in, school children or what have you, how do they set that up?
Call the museum, reach out to us through email, whichever they prefer. We're open for business and would love to spend time. And it's a great resource too for babysitters and stay-at-home parents who have a need to give the kids something to do that maybe doesn't include some screen time during the day.
Yeah.
For school groups too, Art, we received a grant where we are able to offer funding for school buses to bring the kids in.
That's a biggie. That's a good one.
And we've been doing that for a couple of years, but I think we still have monies available for the next couple of years anyway.
That's right.
Well, Bob, great to see you. Thank
you,
for
Art.
being with
Good
us.
to see you.
Kyle, nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Good luck in your new career.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll probably see you in the museum.
I hope so.
Take our last break, tell you what's ahead next hour.
Big insurance, big pharma.
All right, State Rep Amos O'Neill comes along right after the news.
Broadcasting from the